For a better experience, please change your view to speaker view. You can find this button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. For closed captioning, you will find a CC button at the bottom of your screen. I'm now pleased to introduce David Hautanen, Vice President of Enrollment Management.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good afternoon. I am David Hautanen, Jr., Vice President of Enrollment Management. On behalf of our entire community, welcome to St. Mary's College of Maryland, the National Public Honors College. Faculty, staff, current students, and especially our new students, first year, first time students, our transfer students, and those who accompanied you to campus today or with you at home. It is wonderful to have you all here for our fall 2020 opening convocation. I remember attending my first convocation. Yes, it was a long time ago. I remember wondering, what exactly is a convocation? You may be asking the same thing today. When I was asked to speak, I wanted to be fully prepared and did a bit of research, because that's what you do, right? Well, it's this. It's literally a calling or gathering together in assembly. But this is a very special ritual gathering together, formally marking the beginning of your time here at St. Mary's College of Maryland and the opening of the new school year. This year's convocation theme is Learning to Connect, Connecting to Learn. And those of us delivering remarks have been asked to incorporate the theme in our message to you. So I will begin. To our amazing new students, as you launch into this exciting phase of your life, we want you to know that the connections you make and the relationships you build will define your St. Mary's College experience. Whether you are learning on our beautiful waterfront campus or remotely from home, today is a new beginning. You are the entering class of fall 2020. The coming together as an entering class with all of the impressive individual characteristics you each bring are collectively even more powerful. I invite you to connect and embrace this rich tapestry as you prepare for a successful future. During the June ESOL Welcome Program, I shared some starred thoughts. One of those was, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Today and over the next few weeks, you will have many opportunities to provide a first impression. Another thought was, to do your best to give 100% to every opportunity you have. Since this is your first day together, I want to share some information about your classmates. We are pleased to welcome more than 470 new students. You hail from 11 states across the United States, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. 19 of the 24 counties here in Maryland are represented. You have distinguished yourselves in and out of the classroom and are academically well prepared to take on the expectations of our honors college experience. You have taken more than 3,700 honors and AP or IB courses. You represent a wide range of schools and have found your way to St. Mary's College from 193 different high schools and 30 four-year and community colleges. Your most recent home was as close as Dameron, just down the street, and as far away as Abuja, Nigeria. With 11 students from Silver Spring, Maryland, this is the most common hometown. You bring a rich diversity of ethnicities, races, nationalities, cultures, religious traditions, and socioeconomic backgrounds. 27% of you are among the first in your family to attend a four-year college. More than 12% of you are continuing the St. Mary's tradition in your family. They must be very proud. A number of you have been in the military. Thank you for your service. Your interests lie across the curriculum with biology, psychology, computer science, and environmental studies being the most popular for those who have declared a major. 61% of you are women. You possess a wide range of interests. 47% of you have played a sport in high school, with soccer being the most popular. 69 have participated in music ensembles, and there are 99 varsity athletes, with lacrosse having the largest number when you count both the women's and men's programs. If your name is Samuel, this is the most common first name for men. And for the women, Elizabeth or Emma are the two most common names. As the Vice President of Enrollment Management, I am exceedingly proud of our excellent staff in admission, financial assistance, and on the new student experience team, who have all worked diligently throughout the admission and enrollment process. Today, as you move from our care to the care of my esteemed colleagues in academic and student affairs, their close relationships and partnerships in their distinct areas of responsibility will engage and support you as you learn to connect and connect to learn as a member of the Seahawk family. Provost Wick and Vice President Mayer, it is with my great pleasure and honor that I present to you the entering class of 2020. I would now like to invite the 7th President of St. Mary's College of Maryland, Dr. Tuajuanda Jordan, to offer her remarks. Dr. Jordan.
Thank you, Vice President Hautanen. Good afternoon, Seahawks. It is great to feel your presence here today, and an honor and a privilege to be here to welcome you as the President of the National Public Honors College. Learning to connect, connecting to learn. Sounds interesting. I Googled it, of course, to see if it meant something really cool and or had a special meaning. It appears to have a special meaning in the world of education. That's fine, but can it also be cool or transformed into something profound or provocative? Boy, I certainly hope so. Otherwise, this is going to be an unusually long 5 to 7 minute talk. I decided to put the phrase learning to connect, connecting to learn into the context of community. One of my favorite concepts to think about, to discuss, to try to create. The concept of community is especially important during this global pandemic, a situation that mandates social distancing for the benefit of ourselves and others. Self and others. These two words are central to the college's ethos, the St. Mary's Way, that distills down to respect. Respect for self, respect for others, respect for the environment in which we live as a community. How profound. Learning to connect, connecting to learn so that all in our community feel respected and can thrive. How does one establish community during a global pandemic? How does one maintain community during a crisis? What are the long-term benefits of community? These are challenging questions to address, especially during a short speech, so I'm not even going to try. You are now a St. Mary's College of Maryland student. Learn to connect. Learn from the faculty? Of course. Learn from the staff? Indeed. Learn from each other? Always. As you attend your classes, look around and see with eyes wide open, hear with ears straining not to miss a beat. We look different, we sound different, but we are much the same. Annie DeFranco is reported to have said, and I quote, "I know there is strength in the differences between us. I know there is comfort where we overlap," end quote. That statement is about diversity and community. There is strength there. You are joining a rigorous community of scholars that should aspire at all times to be just and supportive of an inclusive and diverse community. Let us use our time together to build an inclusive and equitable community that resembles a gumbo rather than a melting pot, both of which are fluid and flexible communities. Within a melting pot, things come together and get blended until there is a single homogeneous mixture. It all looks the same and is working toward a common goal. When a gumbo comes together, though unified, you can still identify the unique components. It is a wonderfully heterogeneous mixture with every component contributing its unique flavor and everything coming together, working towards the common goal better together than separately. At St. Mary's College, we aspire to be a gumbo community, and at times we may stumble. You bring to this community a wide range of life experiences. Help us be the best we can be. Learn to connect. You will encounter individuals who have had both similar and dissimilar experiences. Connect to learn. Celebrate the similarities and rejoice in the differences. Study and learn from them. Respect them, connect with them. Today, I ask that you do your absolute best learning to connect, and that you go above and beyond connecting to learn. Our community will challenge and support you. In our community, we will inspire you to live according to our ethos. You will aspire to be a creatively engaged, empathetic, and moral citizen, learning to connect and connecting to learn. And you will emerge from this place fully woke and be prepared for whatever lies beyond this river. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, and I quote, "We have flown the air like birds and swum the sea like fishes, but we have yet to learn the simple act of walking the earth like brothers," end quote. Today, the world in which we find ourselves is as challenging a place as it has ever been. Nonetheless, there is a contemplative peace here on the banks of the St. Mary's River. I ask that you take advantage of that which has been given to you and help our college community and the world community to get to a better place for the sake of humanity and all humankind. Connect, learn, contemplate, and do. Thank you for joining our community. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Seahawk Nation. I will now relinquish the mic to Provost Mike Wick. I have no doubt there will be a moral to the much anticipated humorous story he is about to tell you. Provost.
President Jordan, thank you. I appreciate it. As you heard from David, each year orientation has a theme. I heard this year's theme. I didn't understand it. So I walked over, I don't know, somebody just popped their head in. I walked over and asked David what was going on. He said, it's really about, getting engaged in our community. I was excited. Turns out I'm a bit of an expert of getting engaged. I've been married multiple times. That said, I don't seem to be much of an expert at staying married. Nonetheless, I'm happy to share with you some time-proven strategies for getting engaged that have worked for me over and over again. I am so sorry, just one second. Sorry. Apparently I have misunderstood my charge. I'm not supposed to talk to you about how to get engaged. I'm supposed to talk to you about how to be engaged as part of our college community. My apologies. So much for having prepared remarks. When I think of becoming an engaged member of a community, any community, several things come to mind. Being active, speaking up, participating in events, and contributing to community conversations. In this last area, though, to be effective, contributing to a conversation needs to start from a place of empathy. Without first establishing empathy, being active and speaking up can be harmful. Empathy for others, of course, as you know, doesn't mean agreement with others. It means basing your response to others on a deep understanding of the feelings and motivations of the other members of your community. This seems like a subtle difference, but it can have dramatic effects. Let me illustrate with a brief story. I'll change the names to protect the innocent and the guilty. I know you're all too young to remember, but when I was in high school, the killing of Sharon Tate and others by the so-called Manson family was a huge ordeal that impacted my community for years to come. See, one of my high school's classmates was, in fact, a son of Charles Manson. Now, to be sure, he probably had many, many children, as you can imagine. But this person's presence in our community was a big deal. One of my friends, that's too strong, really the friend of a friend of a friend, was fascinated with this connection to our community. This dude, who I will call Dingle Fritz, or Fritz for short, was the kind of kid that liked to stir the water just to see it swirl. I remember Fritz walking down the hall of our school, proudly sporting a t-shirt featuring a now infamous crazy-eyed photo of Charles Manson on the front. This was the early 70s, where public schools were not allowed to have dress codes. He knew he could wear the shirt, so he did, just to see what would happen. Most folks brushed it off as a stupid stunt of an immature kid desperately seeking attention. One student, however, didn't brush it off. She responded with deep anger and pain-filled tears. I'm going to call her Sophia. Sophia insisted he remove the shirt. He refused, citing his right to free expression. I don't think Fritz was a heartless kid. He liked taking things to the extreme, and he liked to challenge authority. Well, as you can imagine, things escalated. One of the school's guidance counselors was given the unenviable task of mediating conflict. I remember vividly thinking, yeah, good luck with that, man. A bunch of us, though, were really curious how this would unfold. So we hung around after school outside the counselor's office, wondering how this would all end. Fritz and Sophie went in separately. Fritz, of course, wore the shirt like the doofus he was. We could hear Fritz's voice through the walls bellowing his freedom of expression argument. Then there was silence for quite some time. A few minutes later, Fritz emerged, shirtless and crying almost uncontrollably. Sophia emerged a few moments later, also in tears, but with a sense of almost calmness or peace that I hadn't seen her in before. We all tried to find out, of course, what happened behind that closed door. Neither Fritz nor Sophia would say a word. It wasn't until years later, when I ran into Sophia, that I found out what had happened. Unbeknownst to me and to all of her classmates, it turns out that Sophia was the niece of Sharon Tate, the woman murdered by the Manson family. Apparently, she didn't want anyone to know, but she had told Fritz during that meeting so that he might understand the pain she experienced every time he wore that shirt. Like I said, Fritz wasn't a heartless kid, but he had never taken the time to consider why Sophia reacted so strongly. He didn't even think about her experience being different than his. Listening to Sophia share her actual experience, Fritz had become overwhelmed with a sense of shame, guilt, and genuine self-disgust. He broke down, took off the shirt, and promised never to put Sophia through that ordeal again. And to the best of my knowledge, he did not. If Fritz had taken the time to understand Sophia's experience and found empathy for her perspective, this terrible story would have never been told. I carry the lesson of that day with me always. Having the right to do something doesn't make it the right thing to do. In a world as divisive as ours is today, to best resolve difference, we must first come to understand it. If I have anything worth sharing on being engaged in our community versus getting engaged in our community, it would be that lesson. And to put it in simple terms, to quote Stephen Covey, Seek first to understand, then to be understood. You know, taking time to understand someone else's feelings and motivations is not giving power to them. It is giving power to you to help change them. As you join our wonderful community, I hope all of us can leverage the incredible power of empathy as we seek to improve the college and the world for one another. Again, my name is Michael Wick. I am the Provost and Dean of Faculty. I know I'm not the first, I won't be the last, but I'd like to add my welcome to St. Mary's College of Maryland, the National Public Honors College. Now it is my great pleasure to turn it over to one of our faculty members. St. Mary's College of Maryland, unlike many, sadly, in our nation, is dedicated first and foremost to teaching excellence. Dr. Joanna Bartow, this year's winner of the Jordan Teaching Exemplar Award for 2020, will speak next. Dr. Bartow, take it away.
Thank you so much, Provost Wick. The topic of my remarks this afternoon is the possibilities of imperfection. Now, please notice that this topic gives me an excuse for any mediocrity in my remarks this afternoon. If my remarks are indeed imperfect, you might think it is cleverly intentional because of my topic. If their imperfection is unintentional, you will still admire them because their imperfection contains the possibilities I'm going to describe to you. So the key here is that I'm never going to reveal to you if the mediocrity of my remarks is intentional or unintentional. Okay, so now I'm going to begin my either cleverly or admirably imperfect remarks. What do I mean by imperfection? Imperfection is when you mess up, when you tried but know you could have done better, when you did the wrong reading for class, when conditions you can't control make you change your perfect plans, when you don't know everything. Imperfection is not a goal, but a means, a path, a process, a practice, creative inspiration, learning, becoming something better, having somewhere to go, and I'm arguing it is hope. Imperfection is not a goal, but it's where we exist. Case in point, the year 2020. A lot is imperfect right now. This is not the way you pictured starting college. This is not the perfect way to start the semester. On a larger scale, the pandemic has raised broader consciousness of long-standing imperfections in our society. There's a lot of uncertainty and anguish right now. Some of us have suffered great losses. But this is a moment when we clearly see our interdependence, what the indigenous Zapatista movement in southern Mexico would call a radical interdependence among ourselves and with our environment. This imperfect moment contains the hope of our collective creativity and sharing, of becoming something better by learning from each other. In early March, Mexican engineer Giselle Triana uploaded his 3D printer plans for a face shield, which have been used all over the world. Using his face shield, I am reminded of what it means to belong to a web of connections. The Caribbean writer and activist Jackie Alexander wrote that the source of yearning to belong is the deep knowing that we are in fact interdependent. You belong to something bigger, to global communities, to local communities, to the environment, and you belong to our campus community now. So what I'm asking you to do in this imperfect moment, in this imperfect semester, is to look to those around you, to the natural environment around you, to what you are learning in class and outside, with greater perception, with greater awareness of connections, and with a sense of wonder. The person next to you, whether 6 feet away or on a Zoom screen, is a whole world. Think about all of the experiences, ideas, passions, and relationships that come together in you, That is a whole complex world. Recognize that whole world when you look at others and listen carefully to them. Being imperfect is a scary moment of vulnerability and humility. But that's when you have to try something different, maybe better. And it's when your well-being is tied to the knowledge and compassion of others in your community. You, your professors, the staff you see every day, and the staff that you might never see are more interdependent than ever. We're going to experiment, be creative, and learn from each other with compassion. Now, none of us is striving to be imperfect or fall short, but you sometimes will, we sometimes will, because even without a pandemic, that is the path, the process, the learning, the becoming something better, and the hope. Our imperfect moment holds the possibility of stronger community, a deeper listening, and action with others that will create something better. Therein lies the hope. John Lewis, the great civil rights leader and congressman who passed away 1 month ago, actually said it perfectly. Whatever you do, do it with faith and hope and much love. With great excitement about what we will learn from each other over the next 4 years, I conclude these intentionally or unintentionally imperfect remarks. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Cachi Sanchez Santos, the student government president.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Cachi. My pronouns are he, they, and I thank you all for taking the time to be an active member of our St. Mary's community. I know it seems like decades away, but your time at the National Public Honors College will end way sooner than you think. And by then you will have learned so many different things about the world and yourself. The aim of a liberal arts education is to become a multi-skilled individual who can engage in critical thinking, and a skill that I decided to advance further for myself is being multilingual. Along with English, I improved my Spanish fluency, and I'm about to complete my major in Chinese, which is something I'm very proud of. Since I love how messages can be conveyed through language and storytelling, I, along with the previous speakers, would like to give you another quote from an incredibly influential author in my life. She wrote The Bluest Eye, a fantastic novel. And the quote is, "I tell my students, when you get these jobs that you have been so brilliantly trained for, just remember that your real job is that if you are free, you need to free somebody else. If you have some power, then your job is to empower somebody else." May Toni Morrison rest in power, the author of The Bluest Eye and many other fantastic novels. I admire this quote so much because of the intentionality, compassion, and bravery exemplified by it. To provide service to your community demonstrates compassion, and don't confuse this with working until you burn yourself out. Instead, I encourage all of you to find your niche on campus, and in the long term, make your goal while you are enrolled at St. Mary's to find not just something that you're passionate about, but find what energizes your person. This thing or action could be anything. If you're embarrassed about it, it could be a secret. No one has to know or see you do it. If you want to paint, write, or roller skate, and you're afraid of people laughing at you, or that you're not being good enough, start small, but just start doing it. You can't help free others if you imprison yourself. In the same way that you want friends and family to self-actualize, love yourself enough to set up the conditions you need to reach your definition of success. Be compassionate enough to yourself that you will dedicate at least 10 minutes every day to something you love, and that only. No responding to Snapchats, or watching Avatar in the background, even Legend of Korra, as tempting as it may be, but really just taking the time to check in with yourself and help rejuvenate yourself. Something that I started doing in the mornings when I first wake up is yoga and Tai Chi. My partner and friends actually encouraged me to do it, especially since they know I've been learning to cope with anxiety. Because of their compassion towards me, I realized that I wasn't really nurturing myself the way that I should have been. My loved ones helped me realize the manner in which anxiety physically manifests in our bodies. And after I do these exercises, I feel lighter afterwards, and with that less cynical perspective, I'm better able to tackle whatever life decides to throw at me. And to remind everyone, this is a very intimate, personal journey. While it may not seem impactful to draw a small sketch every day, lift some hand weights in your room for a couple of minutes, or cook a good meal, when you find what energizes you, you'll be thankful that you were compassionate enough to yourself to show this gentleness, and in suit will show the same gentleness and compassion for others. And I promise you all that you are incredibly brave for enduring all of this uncertainty. It is difficult to push forward, but your future self will be grateful for your resilience. Last semester, I was working on and off campus full time and had obligations at home. I was working to save up money for my trip to Fudan University in Shanghai, China. I would work every day unless I wasn't scheduled, and my friends would always joke around saying that they would never see me. I was so close to departing to China that I already visited the Chinese embassy in DC to get my passport, to get my visa, which I still have stamped in my passport. At the time, I never would have thought that the pandemic would have surfaced in the United States and serve as a catalyst to fundamentally change our way of life. Back in February, I was just worried about how I was going to catch up in my classes after being a month behind. And of course, I was also disappointed that I couldn't study at Fudan, especially since I dedicated all my times and efforts during the previous semester to prepare for this opportunity. My first week back at St. Mary's, I was really discouraged. But once classes started again, I was spending time with my dearest friends, and I was thankful that even though I didn't plan on being in the United States, and I really didn't want to be, I could still be happy and appreciative of the moments that I had with my friends. Some of my favorite moments that I had was when me and my partner went to the new Vietnamese pho restaurant in the county as our first date. When my friends on the executive board on SGA went with me to the mall before remote learning was in place. And a nice moment that I had during quarantine that promotes some self-care is when me and my housemates had a spa day inside of our house. To appreciate these little small moments doesn't diminish the tragedy that we're experiencing, and it doesn't make you selfish. I have a young brother who's immunocompromised. I have another brother in high school, and my mother and father are essential workers. I worry about their health almost every other moment, but this anxiety does no good to improve their material circumstances. We still have daily responsibilities that we must attend to for ourselves and for our community, and we should not let this fear paralyze us. If you are afraid to something, or if you're afraid to do something like me right now giving this speech, do it scared. Despite not asking for this, we will all become stronger, not despite our current circumstances, but because of them. To end this with another quote from Toni Morrison. When I woke up, I reminded myself that freedom is never free. You have to fight for it, work for it, and make sure you are able to handle it now. We all have talents, even if we take them for granted or refuse to acknowledge them. So this is what I will ask of all of you. How will you use your talents to help empower someone else? Thank you for your listening ears. Sara Ramirez will now say her closing remarks.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank all of the presenters and all of the people who have been attending this event this afternoon. A recording of this will be posted on the website, on the college website, if you'd like to see it again or hear it again, or if you have a friend or family member who might have missed it, you might let them know. And now I want to ask all of those parents and friends who are leaving their students here on campus to please now all together at the same time, send a text to them wishing them the best for this school year. And thank you very much. This concludes the program.